After a night of saving the heiress of a financial empire, she ended up pregnant with twins. Taking advantage of her weakness after childbirth, I secretly took one of the babies and ran away. 5 years later, due to a job transfer, I was moved from the overseas branch back to headquarters. Son, stay home and play with your auntie, okay? Dad has to go out and sign a contract. I'll be back soon. My son, holding his toy bubble gun, wobbled around the living room, making pew-pew-pew sounds as he ran and said to me, "Don't worry, Dad." Just as I finished signing the contract and went downstairs, I saw a strange woman scooping up my son and stuffing him into a blue car. I sprinted over like a madman and snatched him back. He buried his face in my chest, tears streaming down his face. Back home, while I was giving him a bath, my phone suddenly started ringing off the hook. The moment I answered, a crisp, familiar voice came through the speaker. My son's voice, "Dad, I have to tell you something, but don't be mad. I sneaked out to find you. And on the way, some cold-faced lady took me to her house. Turns out I look exactly like her kid, and she got the wrong person. What do I do now, Dad? And she got the wrong person. What do I do now, Dad?" My hand holding the phone froze. I stood there completely paralyzed, my mind going totally blank. If my son isn't home, then the kid's sitting quietly in the bathtub right now. Whose kid is this? I told her I wasn't her kid, but she didn't believe me. She even said I was running around and punished me by skipping dinner. On the other end of the line, my son was still whining about his grievances. Before I could even say a word, the boy in the bathtub whispered, "Don't be scared. My mom isn't a bad person, she just looks fierce. She's actually really nice. Tonight, she'll have the maids bring you some food." My eyes widened in shock as I stared at the kid in the tub. "How do you know all that?" As soon as the words left my mouth, something clicked. Panic set in, and I asked hesitantly, my voice dry, "The lady my son is talking about. Could she be your mom?" The little boy gave a slight nod, his face completely expressionless. But that confirmation was like a bomb, going off in my chest. My vision went dark. What kind of twisted fate is this? The kid I brought back wasn't my son at all, and my actual flesh and blood was taken home by that woman, and the kid right in front of me is her son. I tried to steady myself, forcing myself to stay calm, and said to my son on the phone, "It's too late today. I'll come pick you up tomorrow. And well, switch you two back, okay?" But both my son on the phone and the boy in the tub shouted in unison, "No, no way." I looked at the phone, then back at the bathtub. The little boy averted his gaze. He stayed quiet for a few seconds, then pleaded in a tiny voice, "Can I just stay for one day? I want to know what it feels like to have a dad." Those words pricked my heart like a needle, making it impossible for me to say no. I thought about my own son, who had grown up without a mother by his side. Did he also secretly wish for a mom? Just then, my son on the phone happily cheered. "What a coincidence. I don't have a mom. But the real reason I want to stay is because there's so much good food here." I was both annoyed and amused, wishing I could reach through the phone and flick his forehead. This silly kid. He gets taken to a stranger's house and is actually happy about it. Zero sense of danger. Isn't he afraid of being kidnapped? As if they had planned it beforehand, the two boys begged together, "Please, Dad. Dad, just this once. Please, sir, just for one day." I was taken aback by how in sync they were. Looking at those two pairs of expectant eyes, I really couldn't bring myself to refuse. I let out a helpless sigh. "All right, as long as you're both safe. Just for one day, okay. Tomorrow night, you two are switching back." Getting my approval, my son happily hung up the phone. I looked at the little boy in the bathtub, my voice unconsciously softening. "What's your name?" "Mom calls me Chenchin," he replied in a soft voice. "So, does Chenchin usually sleep by himself? Or does someone sleep with you?" Chenchin shook his head slightly, like a little old man. He spoke with a maturity far beyond a 6-year-old. "I started sleeping on my own when I was 3. I don't need anyone to keep me company. I'm very brave." I felt a pang of sorrow. This was the difference. Even now my son still needs me to tell him the story and pat his back before he can fall asleep. Yet Chenchin had learned to be independent at such a young age. After turning off the lights, I stepped out of Chenchin's room and stood at the door, watching him carefully. I just realized that, even though Chenchin and my son look exactly alike, their vibes are completely different. My son is energetic, talkative, and his eyes are full of innocent naivety. But Chenchin, he's incredibly quiet and composed. His eyes carry a maturity that doesn't belong to his age, as if he had been shackled by expectations too early. I comforted myself, thinking the resemblance was just a coincidence. Doesn't the internet always have stories about strangers looking exactly alike? There's probably nothing more to it, but I never expected that. This so-called coincidence was actually a prearranged setup by fate. The next morning, I made the breakfast Chenchin liked. Watching him take small, polite bites, my heart melted. I decided that today I would try to fulfill all his wishes, so he could fully experience, just once, the joy of having a dad around. "You can pick anywhere you want to go today. I'll go with you wherever you choose, okay?" Chenchen's eyes instantly lit up, like stars suddenly bursting into light in the night sky. His little face was full of disbelief. Really? Anywhere? Yeah. I wouldn't lie to you. I want to go to the zoo, and then the amusement park, can we? Chenchen's voice carried a cautious hope. Afraid I might say no. Seeing me nod firmly, he finally acted like a normal kid, cheering happily, a brilliant smile blooming on his little face. My heart ached a little. It seemed his mom really, rarely took him to places like this, to the point where even such simple joys had become something incredibly precious. Our first stop was the zoo. Along the way, the light in Chenchen's eyes never faded. The usually quiet boy, upon seeing the tigers, lions, giraffes, and red pandas actively pulled my hand, excitedly telling me about the habits of these animals and their traits. His little mouth chattered away non-stop, his eyes brimming with curiosity about the world. Leaving the zoo, we headed to the amusement park. He dragged me to ride the bumper cars over and over again, bumping around until I was dizzy and my stomach was churning. Unable to take it anymore, I raised my hands in surrender. Chenchen, spare me please. If we bump anymore, I'm gonna throw up. Chenchen wasn't dizzy at all. He patted my back with his little hand, his face dead serious. But I still want to play. This is so much fun. The sun gradually set, the evening light stretching our shadows. My legs were so like jelly I could barely stand. I held Chenchen's hand as we slowly walked out of the amusement park, squatted down to look him in the eye, and asked gently, "Did you have fun today?" Chenchen nodded vigorously, then shook his head slightly. Confused, I looked at him. Why are you both happy and not happy? Chenchen's eyes gradually turned red. His little nose sniffled, and his voice choked up as if he was about to cry. I know you're about to take me home. Today was really fun, but thinking about not being able to see you again makes me really sad. He hesitated for a moment, then reached out his little hand to gently tug at my shirt, muttering softly, "It'd be so great if you were my dad." My heart ached, and my eyes stung a little. I reached out and rubbed his soft hair, comforting him gently. "If we ever get the chance to meet again, I'll take you out to play again, okay?" Chenchen nodded hard, tears finally slipping out uncontrollably. But he still tried his best to smile at me. Following the address Chenchen gave me, I drove to a high-end villa district. The security here was incredibly strict, and every villa was massive, clearly a place where only the wealthiest in the capital lived. I stood at the main gate, called my son's smartwatch, and whispered, "Sneak out when no one's looking, so Chenchen can hurry inside. You two switch back secretly. Don't let anyone find out." As Chenchen walked through the gate, he turned back and waved hard at me, his little face full of reluctance to leave. Looking at those two nearly identical little faces, my heart felt both bitter and tender, an incredibly indescribable feeling. Right at that moment, through the gap in the villa's gate, a familiar figure was walking toward the entrance. My heart skipped a beat, and the blood in my veins seemed to freeze. It was her, the famous little princess of the Bai family in the capital, Bai Qingshuang. Almost on instinct, I grabbed my son's still waving little hand, turned around, and walked away, my pace as fast as if I were fleeing for my life. I was such an idiot. How could there be so many coincidences in this world? Two kids who look exactly alike, are incredibly in sync, and even like the same things. This wasn't just looking alike. This was a blood connection. The moment I saw Bai Qingshuang, I understood everything. Chenchen was the other twin son she had given birth to, and the baby I saved 5 years ago, the one I accidentally brought home through a twist of fate, was my own biological son, separated for 5 years. I never dreamed that I would meet my other son again. In such an absurd and dramatic way, I walked with a sense of unease, my mind in complete turmoil. Back then, I took my son and fled overseas, thinking I'd never have anything to do with the Bai family ever again. But fate dragged me back to the capital, dragged me right back to her, lost in thought. My son skipped over and grabbed my hand, the little chatterbox starting up again. "Dad, this experience was so magical. He and I look exactly alike," and his mom didn't even notice. "He has a mom but no dad, and I have a dad but no mom. What a coincidence, right, Dad? You have no idea. His mom is super strict. He has to wake up at 5 a.m. Piano lessons at 9, English at 10:30, and a logic class at 2 p.m. Just now, she even made me memorize this super long essay and said I couldn't eat if I didn't memorize it. Good thing you came to switch me back in time, or I really would have starved tonight." The more I listened, the angrier I got, my fists clenching tight. Chenchen is only 6 years old, at an age where he should be active and playful. Yet Bai Qingshuang forces him into so many classes. No wonder he's so mature at such a young age. He was forced to be. Looking down at the carefree boy beside me, I suddenly felt a deep resentment toward my past self. Why was I so useless? Why didn't I have the ability to take both babies with me so they could grow up by my side, without being separated, without having to endure such strict discipline? But reality is cruel. Back then, I had nothing. Raising one child took everything I had. I simply couldn't afford to take care of both. leaving one with the Bai family. At least ensured he wouldn't have to worry about food or clothes, and would have the best material life possible. That was the best choice I could come up with at the time. But thinking about how unhappy Chenshin has been all these years, guilt washed over me like a tidal wave, drowning me. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. The kindergarten announced a parent-child sports day on Friday, requiring parents to attend. I specifically pushed all my work aside to clear my schedule for that day, wanting to fully support my son in the activities. Early Friday morning, my son and I put on the matching tracksuits we had prepared in advance. The little guy was full of energy, patting his chest and declaring loudly, "Dad, we have to win first place today." Seeing his fiery fighting spirit, I smiled and nodded. "All right, I'll give it my all with you." The first game was the three-legged race. Just as the referee bent down to help tie our legs together, I turned my head and suddenly my son was gone. My heart clenched, and I hurriedly looked around, only to see a familiar little figure walking quickly toward me. I pulled him right behind me, putting on a stern face, pretending to be mad. "Who was it that said they wanted to win first place today? If you keep running around, we're gonna come in dead last." Surprisingly, he didn't talk back like he usually did. He just looked up with bright eyes and nodded firmly. No running around. First place. The moment the whistle blew, we lifted our legs and dashed toward the finish line. Unexpectedly, we were incredibly in sync. Our footsteps perfectly matched, without stumbling even once. Smoothly taking first place, we hugged each other and cheered, overjoyed beyond words. The second game, balloon relay. We squeezed the balloon between us, moving carefully, but incredibly fast. Once again winning in the shortest amount of time. My son jumped for joy, his little face beaming with pride. Just like that, we went on a winning streak, sweeping the championship in every single event. But I gradually started to feel like something was off. This kid next to me, even though he looked exactly like my son, his personality was way too calm, and his movements were much more fluid. I tested the waters and called out, "Chenshin." The little boy answered crisply. As soon as the words left his mouth, he realized his mistake, quickly covering his mouth with his hands, his eyes full of regret, his face turning bright red. I rubbed my temples. Well, that makes it obvious. Coincidentally, both kids were wearing the exact same outfit today, and even their hair was styled identically. Without looking closely, it was impossible to tell them apart. Chenshin hesitated for a long time, before gathering the courage to apologize softly. "I just transferred to this kindergarten recently, and I only found out today at the sports meet that we're in the same class." He saw me earlier, and asked if I wanted to switch places and play until it was over. I agreed. "I'm sorry, sir," he whispered. "So, can I still come find you guys to play in the future?" The rejection was on the tip of my tongue, but I just couldn't bring myself to say it. Besides, I was already planning to transfer my son to another school anyway. If this went on too long, Bai Qingxuang would eventually find out. The prolonged silence made Chenshin understand what I meant. The light in his eyes slowly faded, tears welling up in the corners of his eyes. He turned his face away, wiping his tears hard with the back of his hand, then turned back, forcing a stiff smile at me. "I understand." Seeing him try so hard to be strong, my heart ached in waves. But there was nothing I could do. Walking toward the kids' class area, I spotted Bai Qingxuang immediately, standing out in the crowd. In my memory, she only ever cared about company business. Cold and arrogant, I thought the one accompanying Chenshin would be a nanny or a maid. I never expected her to come in person. My son stood obediently by her side, completely dropping his usual mischievous act, acting incredibly well-behaved, not making a fuss at all. Last time, I was too busy running away to get a good look at her. This time, hiding in the crowd, quietly observed Bai Qingxuang. She was still the same as before, standing aloof and proud among the people, like a flower that could only be admired from afar, making hearts flutter but keeping everyone at a distance. Thinking back on it now, the fact that I was able to get close to her back then, that I was able to share that past with her, it really felt like a dream. I waved at my son in the distance. He saw me, cautiously glanced at Bai Qingxuang next to him, and while she wasn't looking, quickly slipped away and ran over to me. I lightly flicked his forehead, pretending to be mad. "You've got some nerve, tricking your own dad." My son clutched his forehead, muttering a protest. I nudged Chenshin toward Bai Qingxuang, took my son's hand, and turned to leave. Right then, Bai Qingxuang's voice rang out from behind, cold and oppressive. "Chenshin, where are you running off to now?" She was still the same, always managing her child like an employee, always forcing adult standards on him. Children aren't wooden dolls or machines. He has his own thoughts, his own feelings. But Bai Qingxuang never understood Chenshin. He mumbled his explanation. "Mom, I needed to use the bathroom. I promise I won't run off again. I don't know who you take after nowadays. You're usually so well-behaved, but today you're acting like you've got ants in your pants, fidgeting non-stop. Do you not have enough homework? When we get home tonight, copy all your lessons twice." I was so furious my whole body trembled. I was absolutely livid. Was it because Chenchen looked a bit like me, that she was taking all her past resentment toward me out on the child? At that moment, a familiar male voice chimed in. Did you find Chenchen? It was Jing Zixuan's voice. I narrowed my eyes, a deep sense of disgust welling up inside me. It seems he's been by Bai Qingxuang's side all these years, doing quite well for himself, with his status rising higher and higher, to the point where he could even attend the parent-child sports day with Chenchen. Seeing Chenchen's teary eyes, he immediately put on a gentle facade and said softly, Chenchen, don't blame President Bai. Can't you see she was worried sick about you? We've been splitting up to look for you this whole time. Thank goodness you're okay. After saying that, he turned to persuade Bai Qingxuang. President Bai, Chenchen is still young. It's perfectly normal for him to be a bit energetic. Please calm down. With just a few words, he managed to ease the tense atmosphere. Back when I was still with the Bai family, he was always like this too, mild-mannered on the outside, but full of schemes on the inside, targeting me at every turn and driving a wedge between me and Bai Qingxuang. I held my son's hand and continued walking out, but I felt a sharp gaze, piercing right into my back. Stop right there. My heart skipped a beat. She couldn't be calling me, right? I didn't stop and kept walking straight ahead. The one in the blue tracksuit, I'm talking to you. I took a quick look around. Among the crowd of parents at the sports day, I was the only one wearing a blue tracksuit. I instantly went on high alert. Did she actually recognize me like this? Why was she singling me out? As soon as I turned around, Bai Qingxuang's voice rang out again, carrying an undeniable authority. I whispered to my son, hide well, don't come out. The sun was blazing today, so I had purposely worn a hat and sunglasses before leaving the house, covering myself up completely. There was no way she could recognize me. I turned around, lifted my head, and pretended to ask calmly, did you need something from me? Hearing the commotion, Jing Zixuan also walked over. Handing the child to the nanny, he stepped up beside Bai Qingxuang and looked me up and down. I just saw Chenchen run over to you. Do you know him? Bai Qingxuang narrowed her eyes, scrutinizing me closely. Her eyes were brimming with suspicion. I thought I wouldn't be noticed with a crowd between us. I forgot she was the heir to the Bai family. She had been navigating the business world since childhood, making her extremely sharp to anything unusual around her. Lowering my voice, I deliberately made it sound hoarse, and spoke with utmost sincerity. That kid was running so fast he almost tripped. I just caught him and was about to leave when you called me. If you don't believe me, you can check the security cameras. Perhaps because my words sounded so genuine, and coupled with the fact that this was a school where nothing bad could really happen. Bai Qingxuang nodded, turning around to leave. Jing Zixuan, however, put on an arrogant face, lifted his chin, and said to me, the kid you just helped is the son of the Bai family's heir. The kid you just helped is the son of the Bai family's heir. Consider yourself lucky. President Bai cares deeply about the child. Here's a check. You can withdraw 30,000 yuan at any bank. Consider it a thank you gift. I sneered inwardly. Did he really think of himself as the master of the Bai family? My face remained calm and expressionless. As I flatly refused, it was nothing. Anyone would have helped. There's no need for a reward. He let out a scoff, his face full of disdain. Fine, then get lost. I turned around, taking my son's hand, ready to leave. Bai Qingxuang, who had already walked away, suddenly turned back. Her gaze landed on me, as she asked coldly, what class is your child in? How old is he? I was instantly on high alert. The school transfer paperwork wasn't finished yet. I absolutely couldn't give her his real information. I casually made up a class and age, trying my best to keep my eyes calm. Bai Qingxuang didn't say a word. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but I saw a brief flash of disappointment cross her eyes. Seeing this, Jing Zixuan asked, President Bai, is there a problem with him? Bai Qingxuang snapped out of it, shook her head slightly, and returned to her usual cold, arrogant demeanor. As she turned to leave, Jing Zixuan hurriedly followed after her. Before leaving, he shot me a cold, piercing glare. Once we got home, I called my son over. I hesitated for a long time, before finally speaking up. We have to transfer to a different kindergarten. My son didn't understand. He widened his eyes, looking incredibly wronged. Why? I'm having so much fun here. Chenchen is in my class. If I transfer, I won't get to see him anymore. The two brothers had already developed a deep bond. This was the undeniable connection of blood. No one could sever it. He grabbed my hand, pleading endlessly. Dad! I don't want to be away from Chenchen. We like the same things. We're best friends when we play together. I don't want to lose my best friend. Seeing my son look so sad, my heart ached terribly. It was so rare for him to find a friend he clicked with so well. If I rejected him now, he would definitely be deeply hurt. But I couldn't risk it. If Bai Qingxuang found out that my son and Chenchen looked exactly alike, all my secrets would be exposed. When that happened, even my right to live peacefully with my son would be completely stripped away. I looked at him with guilt in my eyes and explained softly, I'm sorry. Because of my work, you have to change schools. But I promise you, when I have time later, I'll bring you back to play with him. Okay, to my surprise, my son nodded understandingly. He stopped crying and making a fuss. I immediately started preparing the transfer paperwork, but I never in a million years expected that on the very day I took my son to process the transfer, he would suddenly disappear. Panic instantly set in. My mind went completely blank. Countless terrifying thoughts flashed through my head. Had Bai Qingshuang found out? Did she send someone to take my son away? But thinking it over carefully, I quickly dismissed the thought. If she had really found out, she wouldn't be this quiet about it. She would have definitely come straight to my door. I was going crazy. Searching everywhere my son could have gone. Not at the kindergarten. Not at his favorite playground. Not at the park in our neighborhood. I even drove straight to Bai Qingshuang's villa, only to find chaos at the front gates. Servants were running in and out, looking absolutely panicked. My heart sank. I instantly realized that Chen had disappeared too. Just as I was frantically about to call the police, I suddenly saw them across the street. Two identical-looking children, holding hands, skipping across the road, and right around the blind corner. A large truck was speeding straight toward them. The driver honked furiously, but there was no way he could brake in time. My ears started ringing. Without a second thought, my blood running cold, I threw myself forward recklessly, using every ounce of my strength. I pulled both kids tightly into my arms and lunged forward. As we rolled, the truck let out an ear-piercing screech, grazing my back before speeding past. The gust of wind it left behind whipped painfully against my face. My face was deathly pale, my heart pounding out of my chest. I looked down at the two children in my arms, trembling with fear. Thank God, they were okay. Why did you sneak out? Do you have any idea how worried we were? With so many cars on the road. Do you know how dangerous that was just now? If something had happened to you, how were we supposed to live? Once I was sure the kids were unharmed, I put on a stern face and scolded them harshly, knowing they had done wrong. The two kids burst into frightened tears. Chen sobbed. We knew you were transferring him to another school, even though you said you'd bring him to play later. We were scared we'd never see each other again. We just wanted to have one really fun day together. But we were afraid you wouldn't agree. So we used our smartwatches to secretly plan this and snuck out together. I was both angry and amused. I really didn't know what to do with these two little rascals. It turned out they had secretly exchanged contact info behind my back and planned a secret meetup. Two pairs of big, teary eyes blinked up at me, full of pleading. Dad, since we're already out, can you take us out to play for the day? And then take Chen home? Please, mister. I really like being with you guys. When I heard you were leaving, I was sad all night. Just one day of playing. Is that okay? I stayed silent for a moment. I could bear to say no to my own son. But looking at Chen's hopeful, sorrowful eyes, I really couldn't bring myself to do it. Then, call your mom. Tell her you got lost and I found you. I'll take you home later. Don't let your mom worry. Even though Bai Qingshuang was very strict with Chen, I could tell she truly cared about him and worried about his safety. Chen nodded obediently and lifted his smartwatch to call Bai Qingshuang. Bai Qingshuang's furious voice immediately came through the phone. You've got some nerve sneaking out and getting lost. Then, just don't come back. Jing Zixuan's voice followed right after, sounding helpless. Chen, your mom is just saying that because she's angry? When you went missing, she canceled a crucial 20 billion yuan meeting and rushed back to find you, knowing you're with a stranger. Of course she's worried. What if you ran into a bad person? Be a good boy and tell me where you are. Your mom and I will come pick you up. Chen looked at me for help. I lowered my voice and spoke into the phone. Don't worry. The person Chen is with is me. We met at the kindergarten sports day. Chen and my son are having a great time playing. I'll bring him home later. Jing Zixuan refused to let it go, his tone full of suspicion. Who knows if you're targeting Chen because of his status, and deliberately lured him out. Bring him back right now. Otherwise, I'm calling the cops. Just then, Bai Qingshuang's cold voice rang out again. With just a few short words, bring him back tonight. After saying that, she hung up. The two kids immediately cheered loudly. I could only smile helplessly. All right. Even if I couldn't make up for the fatherly love Chen was missing. Before I left, I should at least let him have the time of his life today. I took them to the arcade to play the claw machine that Chen loved so much. I was pretty good at it and managed to win a whole bag full of plushies, so many that my son couldn't even hold them all. Exhausted and hungry from playing, we found a restaurant to grab a bite. My son couldn't handle spicy food. Usually, when I cooked, I made 2 portions, a spicy one for me and a non-spicy one for him. I didn't know what Chen's tastes were like, so I ordered both mildly spicy and non-spicy dishes. To my surprise, Chen's taste was exactly like mine. We both absolutely love spicy food. After we ate our fill, I drove Chen to the front gates of the villa. I urged him to hurry inside. Hurry on in, before your mom starts worrying again. Chen tugged at my hand, acting spoiled. Mister, can you walk me right to the door? My heart melted. I let him pull me all the way to the front door of the villa. As soon as we reached the door, I saw Bai Qingshuang and Jing Zixuan standing there. Neither of them looked happy. My footsteps faltered. Feeling a bit annoyed inwardly, Bai Qingxuang said coldly to Chen Chen. You've played all day. Go inside and make up for your missed homework. It seems there's nothing else. The child has been brought back safely. I'll be taking my leave. With that, I turned to walk away. But Bai Qingxuang kept staring at me, staring so hard it gave me goosebumps. I didn't dare stay any longer and quickened my pace. But just as I turned, Jing Zixuan sneered, his tone full of hostility. You keep showing up in front of Chen Chen time and time again. What exactly are you trying to pull? I explained helplessly. It was honestly just a coincidence. Believe it or not, I guarantee I'll stay far away from you all from now on. I'll never show up again. Hearing those words, the light in Chen Chen's eyes instantly dimmed. His little face was filled with disappointment. Seeing it made my heart ache. But I had no other choice. Only by staying away from them could my son and I live a peaceful, safe life. Smooth talker. You think I'd actually believe that? I knew from our last meeting that you were up to no good. You want to use Chen Chen to get close to President Bai, don't you? Gold-digging men like you. I've seen plenty of them. Jing Zixuan radiated provocation from head to toe. Just like in the past, whenever another man appeared beside Bai Qingxuang, he would become incredibly hostile, using every trick in the book to ruin things. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. I said coldly, believe what you want. I'm leaving. Right at that moment, Bai Qingxuang, who had been silent this whole time, suddenly spoke up, ordering the bodyguards beside her hold him down. I struggled desperately, glaring at her angrily. There's no law against wearing sunglasses. I already told you I don't want to get close to you. The last 2 times were complete accidents. Let me go. I said I'd never show up again. Jing Zixuan smirked and stepped forward, reaching out to snatch my sunglasses. Only shady people are afraid of showing their faces. Let's see who you really are. Right then, my son dashed out from behind me, his tiny body shoved hard against the bodyguard, his little fists punching and kicking wildly at Jing Zixuan. Crying loudly, he screamed, "Don't bully my dad. Get away." With that, he spread his little arms wide, desperately shielding me, like a brave little wild beast. When Jing Zixuan and the bodyguards got a clear look at my son's face, they were all stunned. They cried out in shock, "Young master." Hearing the commotion, Bai Qingxuang turned her head. The moment she saw my son, she froze completely. Her face went pale, her eyes filled with shock and disbelief. Chen Chen forcefully yanked his hand away from the nanny and also ran over to shield me. Spreading his arms wide to protect me, he shouted loudly, "No one is allowed to hurt him. Hurting them means hurting me." 2 identical tiny figures, standing on my left and right, shielding me. Everyone was completely stunned. Why are there 2 young masters? Jing Zixuan was also completely dumbfounded. The smile froze on his lips. His eyes were filled with absolute bewilderment. As for me, I saw it very clearly. Bai Qingxuang lost her composure and stood up straight. Her eyes were trembling uncontrollably. Of course she knew. These 2 children were both born from her own womb, her own flesh and blood. I let out a soft sigh. No more hiding. I slowly reached up and took off my sunglasses. Seeing my face, Jing Zixuan immediately cried out in shock. His face turned incredibly ugly. Bai Qingxuang hurriedly strode toward me, reaching out a trembling hand wanting to touch my face. But when she saw my cold gaze, she slowly pulled it back. Her eyes still couldn't bear to leave my face, carrying the longing and agony of the past 5 years. "Lu Jingxuan, I've been looking for you for 5 years." Just this one sentence made my son look at me in confusion, then look over at Bai Qingxuang. His little face was full of bewilderment. Finally, he couldn't hold back and asked in a small voice, "Do you know my daddy, miss?" Bai Qingxuang squatted down. Her trembling hands gently caressed my son. Her tears finally fell uncontrollably. Her voice was choked and trembling. "I finally get to see you. Your eyes and brows look just like Mommy's." I let out a cold snort. My tone was icy. "Now that you've seen him, we have to go." With that, I pulled my son along, ready to leave. A group of bodyguards immediately stepped forward, blocking our path. I frowned, glaring coldly at Bai Qingxuang. What is the meaning of this? Bai Qingxuang dropped her usual cold demeanor, raising her voice with extreme gentleness. "You've been hiding for 5 years. Now that we've finally met, you still want to leave, relying on my strength alone? There was no way I could take my son away today." I turned my head and smiled bitterly. "Since you've already found me, what's the point of hiding? But our belongings are still at the old house. I'll take him back to get them." For Bai Qingxuang to grow the Bai group to such heights, she wasn't easily fooled. She smiled faintly, her tone incredibly firm. "Lu Jingxuan, I'm not that stupid. I went through so much trouble to find you. What if I let you run away again?" Jing Zixuan immediately chimed in. "Let me follow him. I'll keep an eye on him and the kid. There's no way they'll escape." Bai Qingxuang stayed silent for a moment, then nodded gently. I breathed a sigh of relief. Jing Zixuan had let me go back then. Maybe he would help me this time too. Just as I turned around to leave, Chen Chen suddenly grabbed the hem of my shirt. He muttered softly, "I want to go too." I looked down and gently comforted him. "Be good. Wait for me to finish packing, and I'll come back to pick you up." But Chen Chen stubbornly shook his head. His little face showed absolute determination. "No, I want to go with you guys. Left with no choice, I looked at Bai Qingxuang. We're going back to pack. It's not convenient to bring Chenchen along. You should take him home. Who would have thought Bai Qingxuang would just push Chenchen toward me? She said coldly. Fine. Jing Zixuan can just bring him back later. On the way, the two little guys surrounded me, chattering nonstop, asking why they looked exactly the same. Why one stayed with daddy, and the other stayed with mommy. I closed my eyes, pretending not to hear. I absolutely did not want to return to Bai Qingxuang's side. I didn't want to get dragged into the messy drama of a wealthy family again. If I admitted my identity now, it would cause too much pain for the two children. Seeing that I wasn't answering, the two kids turned to ask Jing Zixuan. Jing Zixuan stayed silent for a few seconds before suddenly speaking up. His tone was filled with resentment and bitterness. Why did you come back? I gave you a way out back then, so you could go far away. Do you have any idea? I was this close to winning her heart. I was about to have everything. Before I could even say a word, Chenchen's eyes widened, his face full of confusion. Uncle Zixuan, what are you talking about? Jing Zixuan suddenly snapped. He yelled fiercely. You little brat, you have no right to say my name. I've had enough of you all. Since you father and sons are finally reunited, then you can all disappear forever today. My heart clenched. Knowing something was wrong, I immediately reached out to grab the steering wheel. Both kids were in the car. I had to keep them safe. But Jing Zixuan came prepared. He pulled an iron hammer from under the seat and smashed it hard into my shoulder. An excruciating pain washed over me. My vision went dark. I collapsed into the back seat. The wound on my shoulder bled profusely. Warm blood seeped through my clothes and trickled down. The two children shrieked in terror. They scrambled over to me, using their tiny hands to press against my bleeding wound, crying out, Daddy, Uncle. I forced my eyes open, looking at Jing Zixuan's crazed expression. My voice was hoarse. You're insane. Even if you hate me, that child is still her own flesh and blood, the heir to the Bai family. Aren't you afraid she'll hate you? Jing Zixuan's face twisted viciously. These two little bastards deserve to be her children. Back when she gave birth to them, I wanted to strangle them to death. Too bad she kept such a close eye on them. Now the chance is finally here. Once I get rid of you all, I'll stay by her side while she's grieving, and rightfully step into the wealthy elite. Everything the Bai family owns will be mine. It'll all become reality very soon. With that, he stopped the car right at the edge of the cliff. His eyes were brimming with murderous intent. It's time for you to say goodbye to this world. In your next life, don't get in my way. He slammed the car door shut and pushed the car from behind with all his might toward the cliff. Even though the two kids were young, they knew Jing Zixuan was trying to kill them. My youngest son tightly gripped Chenchen's shirt. Tears streamed down his face like broken pearls, especially Chenchen. His lips were trembling uncontrollably. He couldn't even make a sound as he cried. Perhaps he had never imagined that the Uncle Zixuan, who always brought them candy, who was always so gentle with them, would suddenly turn into this monster. Turn into a bad guy who wanted to take their lives. I used the last of my strength to pull the trembling children into my arms. The jolting of the car tore at the wound on my back with agonizing pain. Warm blood seeped through my clothes and trickled down, pooling into a dark stain on the seat. I kept repeating in a hoarse voice, Don't be afraid, Daddy's here. Daddy's here. While using all my strength to kick the car door. Clang, clang. The deafening sound of metal crashing echoed inside the sealed cabin, but the door seemed welded shut, not budging an inch. With every kick, a sharp pain shot through my ankle. The view of the cliff outside the window grew clearer and clearer. The cold wind whipped small pebbles against the glass, making a harsh grating sound. Below the cliff was a bottomless abyss of thick fog, like a giant pitch-black maw, waiting to swallow us whole. Jin Zixuan's hands gripping the steering wheel bulged with visible veins. A twisted smile crept onto his lips. His foot slammed relentlessly on the gas pedal. The car's speed was terrifyingly fast. The car slid inch by inch toward the cliff. The rear wheels were already hanging off the edge. It could plummet at any second. Right at this most critical moment, the massive roar of a car engine echoed from the distance, tearing through the valley's silence like thunder. A blinding beam of headlights shot straight toward us, forcing Jin Zixuan to instinctively squint. Then, Bai Qingxuang's furious roar pierced through the wind, echoing across the valley, filled with despair, rage, and terror. Every word carried immense weight. Jin Zixuan, you dare touch my man and my children, I'll make you pay. The next second, her blue car shot forward like an arrow, slamming violently into the side of our car. A deafening crash shattered the air. The car shook violently. Our car was knocked away from the cliff's edge and crashed heavily onto the ground. Jin Zixuan stumbled backward again and again, knocked off balance by the immense force of the impact. His face instantly turned deathly pale. Panic filled his eyes. Knowing his plan had completely failed, he abruptly spun around, running for his life down the mountain, desperate to escape. But he had barely taken a few steps before being surrounded by police from all sides. Over a dozen officers closed in, guns drawn, their faces stern, shouting, "Freeze!" Hands in the air. We are the police. Jin Zixuan refused to give up. He struggled frantically, swinging his fists in resistance. But he was quickly subdued by the officers. A cold click rang out. Handcuffs locked tightly around his wrists, locking away all his wild ambitions, his jealousy, and his madness. He looked up at Bai Qingxuang, his eyes brimming with resentment and bitterness. He screamed, "Qingxuang, I did all of this for you. I love you so much. Why are you helping this pathetic, poor loser?" Bai Qingxuang didn't even spare him a glance. Her eyes were locked entirely on me and the kids trapped in the car. Her face was as pale as a sheet. She rushed over, calling my name as she ran. Her voice trembled, laced with sobs. "Lu Jingxuan. Lu Jingxuan, hang in there. Are the kids okay?" The next second, Jin Zixuan was pinned to the ground by the police. The handcuffs on his wrists gleamed harshly in the moonlight. He suddenly threw his head back, laughing loudly, a bleak and manic sound. "Lu Jingxuan, you think you've won? Do you have any idea? 5 years ago, when you took that kid away, I slipped something into his diaper. Something you could never, ever guess." Bai Qingxuang abruptly turned around and slapped him hard across the face. "What did you do?" "What did I do?" Blood trickled from the corner of Jin Zixuan's mouth. He laughed even more maniacally. "I'm not telling. I want you all to live in fear for the rest of your lives." "Ha ha ha." Bai Qingxuang looked at me, her face deathly pale. She frantically searched through the two kids' clothes, checking their diapers over and over again. But she found absolutely nothing. Her voice trembled. "What on earth did he put in there?" The wound on my back hurt so much my vision went dark. But I still grabbed her hand. "The doctor said we need to get the kids to the hospital for a full checkup first." In the ambulance, I looked at their familiar little faces. That sentence kept echoing in my mind. Once at the hospital, Bai Qingxuang used all her connections. She had them get full-body x-rays in the middle of the night, screened their blood for toxins, and did everything humanly possible. By 4 a.m., the results were out. Everything was completely normal. I breathed a sigh of relief. But the thorn in my heart still couldn't be removed. Bai Qingxuang sat on a bench in the hallway, holding her head in her hands. Her shoulders trembled slightly. She looked up. Her eyes were as red as a rabbit's. Her voice was hoarse. "I'm sorry. This is all my fault." I stayed silent for a long time. Finally, I just said, "Let's focus on recovering first. We'll talk later." My tightly wound nerves suddenly relaxed. The pain in my back and shoulder crashed over me like a tidal wave. The wound had completely torn open, soaking through my shirt. My vision began to blur and fade to black. The sound of the two kids crying grew distant. I could feel my strength slipping away. Right before I closed my eyes completely, I only saw Bai Qingxuang lunging toward the stretcher, tears streaming down her face, absolute terror written all over her. She kept calling my name. Her voice cracked, so hoarse it was barely audible. "Hurry, get a doctor. Get him to the central hospital immediately. Get the best doctors. The best medicine." Her voice trembled. Her hands were shaking too. She couldn't even hold the kids steady. "My children. My man. Nothing can happen to them. If anything happens to them, I'll make everyone pay with their lives." When I opened my eyes again, the glaring white light made me instinctively squint. I was lying in a hospital bed. My entire body ached and felt completely drained. The wounds on my back and shoulder throbbed with pain. Every breath aggravated the injuries. Hurting so much, I sucked in a sharp breath of cold air. I slowly turned my head. On the two hospital beds beside me, a child was sleeping soundly in each. My eldest son and Chenchen were lying right next to me. There were still dried tear streaks at the corners of their mouths. Their breathing was steady and even. Seeing them so peaceful, my heart softened completely. As long as they were okay, any injury I suffered was worth it. I gently raised my hand, wanting to rub their little heads. But I moved a little too sharply. A fierce pain shot through my back again. Cold sweat instantly broke out. Just then, the hospital room door was gently pushed open. Bai Qingxuang walked in. Her eyes were completely bloodshot. She had obviously stayed up all night. She was still wearing yesterday's disheveled suit. Her hair was tied up messily. Gone was her usual arrogant demeanor, replaced by a haggard look, gentle and cautious. Seeing that I was awake, her eyes suddenly lit up, as if she had just seen the light of the whole world. She quickly walked over to the bed. Her movements were incredibly gentle. "Afraid of hurting me." Her voice was soft, carrying a hesitant, probing tone. "You're awake. How are you feeling?" "You have a mild concussion. Your back has extensive abrasions and soft tissue damage. You need to get plenty of rest. Absolutely do not make any sudden movements." As for the kids, I had the head of pediatrics do a full checkup on them. They were just a little spooked. Not a single scratch on them. Looking at her humble, almost subservient demeanor, the memories I had buried for the past 5 years flooded my mind like a tidal wave. It felt as vivid as if it had just happened yesterday. Originally, I was just a poor student from a remote rural village. My family was incredibly poor. I couldn't even afford my tuition. Every day, I could only gnaw on plain steamed buns. I couldn't even get a full meal. It was Bai Shuang, who by chance during a charity sponsorship saw my situation on the list. Moved by my hard work, she took the initiative to fully sponsor me, brought me from the countryside to the city, gave me a good life, provided me with the best learning environment, so I no longer had to worry about my next meal and could focus entirely on my studies. To repay her kindness, I studied like my life depended on it. I didn't dare slack off for a single second. Every day, I was the first to arrive at class and the last to leave. I stayed up late studying, never relaxing for a moment. Finally, with outstanding grades, I was accepted into the major of high-end design, which the Bai group needed the most. I swore that after graduation, I would dedicate myself to helping her. I would spend my whole life repaying her kindness, spending every day together. My feelings for her gradually changed. From initial gratitude and respect, it turned into a deep, uncontrollable love. But I was well aware of my status. The gap between us was simply too vast. She was the lofty little princess of high society, the sole heir to the Bai family, holding immense wealth and power, while I was just a guy with nothing to my name, just a poor kid from the countryside. I was completely unworthy of her, so I always kept these feelings hidden deep in my heart. I didn't dare speak of them. I didn't dare get too close. I could only stand by her side and protect her in silence, until Bai Shuang took the initiative to find me. On a bright, starry night, with a blushing face, her eyes both shy and resolute, she tremblingly placed a kiss on my lips and confessed her love to me. She said she liked me, that she didn't care about the difference in our status. That night, we were together. I thought I had finally grasped happiness. I thought we would be together forever. But the very next day, when she brought me back to the Bai family villa, her attitude completely changed. She started running hot and cold and distant. She even indulged another sponsored student like me, Jin Zixuan, letting him bully me however he pleased. Countless times I sought her out to ask why. I just wanted an explanation. But she always avoided me. She'd either have the servants block me at the door, or just turn her back and walk away, never giving me a single chance to speak. I didn't understand what could have possibly happened overnight to make her change so drastically toward me, going from a gentle lover to a complete stranger. It wasn't until later, when Bai Shuang got pregnant, I thought that having a child would completely erase the distance between us, that she would come back to me, that we'd have a complete home again. But it was all just my own wishful thinking. One day, out of nowhere, she ordered someone to lock me in the basement of the Bai family villa. I wasn't allowed out. No one was allowed to speak to me, completely isolating me from the outside world. The basement was dark and damp. Water constantly seeped from the walls. The corners were piled with old cardboard boxes reeking of mildew. At night, it was so quiet I could only hear my own breathing and heartbeat. Like a freezing prison, I replayed it in my mind over and over again, remembering how gentle she looked when she called my name, remembering the unwavering certainty when she confessed her feelings. Tears fell silently onto the freezing concrete floor, spreading into a small, damp patch. My heart slowly withered away and went numb, bit by bit. I don't know how much time passed. Jin Zixuan casually opened the door and walked in, leaning against the doorframe, a mocking smirk on his lips, looking down at me with arrogant, condescending eyes, like he was looking at an ant. Lu Jingshuan, stop dreaming. King Shuang never loved you. To her, you were just a fleeting novelty, something to toss away when she got bored. Let me tell you, she's already given birth. Twin boys. The Bai family has their heirs now. A pathetic poor loser like you should know your place. Get the hell out of her world. Stop being an eyesore here. Clenched my fists. My nails dug so hard into my palms that they drew blood. I glared at him and demanded, where is Qing Shuang? I want to see her. I want to ask her myself. Jin Zixuan scoffed, his eyes full of absolute disdain. See her. Do you think you're worthy? She doesn't want to see you right now. Just looking at you makes her sick. I can let you go, but you have to promise me you will never return to Jing City. You will never appear in front of her again. Otherwise, I'll make sure neither you nor your kid makes it out alive. I do what I say. To let my child live. I had no choice but to compromise. Swallowing my pride and enduring the humiliation. Taking advantage of Bai Shuang's weakness after childbirth. Under Jin Zixuan's arrangements, I took one of my twin sons and followed the route he provided, fleeing Jing City overnight, going abroad to live in anonymity and seclusion. On the train, I held the tiny baby wrapped in swaddling clothes, listening to the rhythmic clacking of the tracks, watching the scenery blur past the window, not knowing where the future would take us. I only had one thought in my mind: raise this child well. I would never bring up the past for the rest of my life. I wouldn't disturb Bai Shuang's life. I just wanted to live a peaceful life. Now, lying in this hospital bed, looking at the haggard and humble Bai Shuang in front of me, all the grievances suppressed over the past 5 years, the resentment, the confusion, and the pain suddenly exploded. I couldn't hold it back any longer. I propped up my weak body to sit up slightly. The wound on my back hurt so much, I broke into a cold sweat. I stared straight into her eyes, word by word, every single syllable carrying a bone-chilling coldness and the agonizing pain I had buried for 5 years. Bai Qingxuang, if you hated me so much back then, if you felt I wasn't worthy of you, then why did you approach me first? Why did you kiss me first? Only to turn your back and run hot and cold with me. Do you have any idea how miserably I lived during that time? People mocked me. Behind my back, they called me a country bumpkin trying to climb the social ladder, having delusional dreams of marrying into a wealthy family. I could endure all those humiliations. For you, I could bear it all. But why did you have someone lock me in that dark, damp basement, leaving me there to rot? Ignoring whether I lived or died, I really don't understand. If you hated me that much, if you couldn't stand the sight of me, why did you let me go 5 years ago? And why have you been desperately searching for me for the past 5 years? What exactly do you want? Every questioning word was like a knife stabbing fiercely into Bai Qingxuang's heart. Her face instantly turned deathly pale. Her body trembled violently. Tears suddenly welled up in her eyes. She grabbed my hand in a panic. Her hands were freezing cold, shaking nonstop. Her voice choked with sobs. No, Lu Jingxuan, it's not what you think. I never hated you. My love for you has never changed. This was all Jin Zixuan's doing. He's liked me for a long time and he was jealous that you had my love. So he used every dirty trick in the book. He carefully plotted to frame you. He forged an audio recording. He brought that recording to me. It was as full of words he had someone spliced together. Splicing your voice, saying that you didn't approach me for love, but for the Bai family's money, to steal the assets of the Bai group, saying that you were always scheming to harm me, to leave me dead without a burial place. At that time, I was both furious and terrified. I didn't want to believe it. But the recording Jin Zixuan faked was too real. There wasn't a single flaw. I was blinded by jealousy and fear, but deep down, I couldn't bear to let you go. I loved you too much. That's why I wanted to lock you in the basement, to keep you by my side. I thought that as long as I kept you with me, you wouldn't be able to hurt me. What happened in that basement is the decision I regret most in my entire life. Later, when you ran away and completely disappeared from my world, I searched for you like crazy. I searched the whole world. I used all of the Bai family's connections, all of our resources, but there wasn't a single trace of you. I even thought, even if you really were after my money, even if you were really after the Bai family's assets, I wouldn't care. I'd give you everything the Bai family owns, as long as you could come back to me. This time, when Jin Zixuan said he wanted to bring you and the kids back, I felt uneasy. I just had a bad feeling about it. I told him to drive my car. There's a recording device installed in my car, connected directly to my phone. Everything he said in that car. I heard it all loud and clear. I called the police immediately and rushed over here. The only thought in my head was that I had to save you. Save my children. I was just a second away from losing you all forever. I really don't dare to think how I'd live without you guys. Her voice choked up, crying so hard she couldn't speak. Tears fell drop by drop, landing on the back of my hand, scalding hot. She reached out, wanting to touch my face, wanting to wipe the cold sweat from my face, but carefully pulled her hand back, afraid I would reject her, afraid I would be disgusted by her, afraid I would push her away again. She looked at me, her eyes full of pleading, regret, and humility. Her voice as light as a feather, carrying a desperate hope. Lu Jingxuan, the mistakes of the past were all my fault. I know I broke your heart. I'm willing to spend the rest of my life making it up to you, making it up to the kids. I'll willingly do anything, more than willing. Our family of 4 will live a good life from now on. Okay, I'll never be stubborn again, and I won't listen to other people's poisonous words anymore. I will love you properly. I will love our 2 children properly. I'll give you all a complete, happy, and warm home. Okay, I gently pulled my hand back, avoiding her touch. I softly stroked the familiar little faces of my twin sons. My heart was ice cold. My tone was calm, but carried an unshakable resolve. Bai Qingxuang. The love I had for you has long been worn away by 5 years of misunderstandings, 5 years of suffering, 5 years of hiding, 5 years of longing. It's all been worn away. There's nothing left, and it can never be found again. The me right now doesn't want anything, and I don't need anything. I just want to live a good life with my kids, safe and sound, peaceful and quiet, simple and happy. That's enough. As soon as I finished speaking, the 2 kids seemed to be woken up by our voices. They groggily opened their eyes, seeing that I was awake. They instantly snapped awake. Their eyes lit up and they happily threw themselves into my arms. Their warm, tiny bodies, soft and cuddly. They called out Daddy, in unison with their adorable, childish voices. Daddy's here, I happily replied to each of them, holding them tightly in my arms. My nose stung. My eyes grew hot. My heart felt both warm and achingly sad. Chenchen obediently buried his face in my chest, his little face full of insecurity and fear. With red eyes, he gently grabbed my hand, whispering between sobs, Daddy, are you going to leave? Do you not want Chenchen anymore? Chenchen will be so good. Chenchen will listen to you. I'll study hard. I won't make you mad. I stayed silent for a moment, looking at his expectant yet fearful eyes. My heart melted, but I still gently nodded. There are some paths you can only walk alone, some pains you can only bear by yourself. Chenchen's tears instantly fell, drop by drop like a broken string of pearls. He gripped my hand tightly, pleading desperately. His voice choked up. Daddy, can you take Chenchen with you? I don't want to be away from you. I want to live with you. I want to play with my little brother. I want to see you every single day. After saying that, he gathered all his courage and turned to look at Bai Qingxuang, his little face showing a clear look of seriousness and determination. He whispered, Mommy, can I go live with Daddy for a while? I'll be good and listen to him. I won't make Daddy mad. I'll miss you a lot. I thought Bai Qingxuang would object, that she would fiercely refuse like before, but she didn't hesitate at all. She agreed immediately. Her eyes were red. Her voice was incredibly gentle. Okay, Mommy agrees to let you go with Daddy. I'll come visit you every week. I'll bring you yummy food and play with you, okay? Then she turned to look at me, her eyes overflowing with expectation and humility. Carrying a careful plea, her voice was very soft. Afraid of startling me, Lu Jingxuan, take me with you too, okay? I want to take care of the kids with you. I want to give them a complete home. I want to make up for my mistakes. I want to love you properly. I looked at her and gently shook my head. My tone was resolute, leaving no room for negotiation. I'm sorry, I can't. Her body suddenly swayed. Her face grew even paler. She hurriedly grabbed the edge of the hospital bed just to barely keep herself standing. The light in her eyes faded bit by bit, leaving only disappointment, sorrow, and despair. After recovering in the hospital for a full week, my body gradually recovered. On the day of my discharge, Bai Qingxuang arrived at the hospital very early to help me pack my things. Throughout the whole process, she was extremely cautious, not daring to say a single unnecessary word, not daring to make a single unnecessary movement, afraid of making me angry, afraid I would disappear again. After being discharged, Chenchen and I went back to the Bai family villa to get his luggage, pushing open that familiar carved wooden door. The crystal chandelier in the living room was just as dazzling, very grand, but it no longer had the suffocating, cold, and scheming atmosphere of the past. It had gained a bit more of the breath of life, a touch of complete tenderness. Like a happy little bird, he skipped and ran up to the bedroom upstairs, very quickly hugging a small teddy bear that had been washed until its color faded. He ran back down. The bear's ear was slightly torn, but it was washed spotlessly clean and exceptionally well kept. Holding the bear up to me, his little face full of joy and pride, Daddy, look, this is the teddy bear you secretly tucked in with me back then. I've always kept it with me. I hug it to sleep every night. I never lost it. I froze for a moment. Dusty memories came flooding back, remembering when Chenchen was just born, while the servants weren't paying attention. Amidst a pile of expensive imported toys, I chose this softest, most comfortable, and most ordinary bear, and secretly tucked it into his swaddle, hoping it could grow up with him and give him a little warmth. I didn't expect that after 5 years. He had kept it all along, treating it like a treasure. Bai Qingxuang followed behind us and quietly walked into the bedroom. She opened the wardrobe, took out Chenchen's clothes one by one, folded them neatly, and carefully packed them into a suitcase with a little bear print. Her movements were very gentle. Throughout the whole process, she didn't say a word, just that her eyes were red, brimming with tears, but she tried her best to hold them back. Returning to our little home, even though it was just a small 3-bedroom apartment, not big or grand, lacking the luxury of the Bai family villa, but it was filled with warmth everywhere, brimming with the breath of life. Simple, yet happy. Ever since Chenchen moved in, the house was filled with laughter every day. The two kids chased each other around, played with toys together, watched cartoons together, shared snacks together, went to school and came home together. The bond between the brothers grew stronger every day, inseparable like shadow and form. Blood ties truly are something no one can sever. Blood ties truly are something no one can sever. That morning, just as I brought breakfast to the table, the two brothers raced over, fighting over the biggest fried egg, yelling, I have to save it for Daddy. Daddy works so hard. He has to eat the biggest piece. Daddy works the hardest. In the evening, when I came home from work, the two kids threw themselves into my arms again, hugging my legs and acting spoiled, telling me all the fun things that happened at kindergarten, who teacher Jiang praised, who made new friends. At night, when I sat on the sofa, the two kids leaned against me, one on each side, pestering me to tell them bedtime stories. After one story, they'd beg for another, until their eyelids grew heavy, and they couldn't fight the sleepiness anymore, finally going obediently to their bedroom, looking absolutely adorable. Bai Qingxuang came to visit the kids every week. I didn't stop her. After all, she is their biological mother. Emotionally and logically, I shouldn't refuse. Children can't lack a mother's love. Every time she came, she brought a ton of things. The snacks the kids liked. Fresh imported fruits, beautiful new clothes, toys, comic books. stationery, stuffing the cabinets in the house full. She even took the initiative to help me cook, tidy up the rooms, and clean the house, organizing everything neatly, spotlessly clean. Her cooking is amazing. The dishes perfectly suit my taste and the kids. She no longer has that arrogant air from years ago. She's cold, yet gentle, capable, and thoughtful. Just like an ordinary mother. Every time she's about to leave, she can't bear to walk away. Standing at the door, watching the two kids play, looking for a long, long time. Her eyes filled with reluctance and longing. Only when the kids wave goodbye does she finally turn and leave, lingering at every step, her back looking lonely and lost. I know she's gradually changing, learning how to be a good mother, learning how to make up for her shortcomings with the kids, and also learning how to make up for the pain she caused me. It's just that some wounds, once inflicted, can never go back to the way they were. The kids' upbringing can't be without a father, nor can it be without a mother. Even though I can't forgive her past mistakes, I don't want the kids to lose their mother's love either. So we just coexist peacefully like this. For the sake of the kids, we each find our own peace. Days like this passed for 2 months. I thought life would just continue peacefully like this. But that evening, Bai Qingshuang arrived much earlier than usual, and her expression was off when she walked through the door. Her hands weren't like usual, carrying bags big and small, but instead tightly gripping her phone, her knuckles turning white. The two kids were building Legos in the living room, and seeing their mom arrive, they immediately rushed over to call her. She squatted down and hugged them, her smile somewhat forced, unable to hide the exhaustion and anxiety in her eyes. I leaned against the kitchen door, wiping my freshly washed hands, and asked her what happened. She told the kids to go play in their room, then walked up to me, staying silent for a long time before speaking. Her voice tense. Lu Jingchuan, my dad knows? My heart skipped a beat, but I still pretended to be calm. Knows what? Knows about the kids. Knows you're back. Knows Chenchen is currently with you. Her voice grew softer and softer. This afternoon he called me back to the Bai family and flew into a rage. He said the Bai family's flesh and blood cannot wander outside and absolutely cannot follow it. She didn't continue. But I understood. A poor loser. A rural student he sponsored back in the day. Someone unworthy of stepping over the Bai family's threshold. I let out a faint scoff. Is that so? So what does he want to do? Bai Qingshuang looked up, her eyes red. He wants me to bring both kids back. And from now on, I'm never to see you again. He said he'll find the best lawyers. And if I don't comply, he'll sue you for kidnapping the Bai family's heirs and send you to prison. The towel in my hands dropped to the floor. Sue me for kidnapping. Back then, it was clearly Jin Zixuan who let me go, but there's absolutely no proof of that. The Bai family's power in the capital, am I not familiar with it? For them to send an ordinary person to jail is as easy as crushing an ant. You wouldn't agree to that, right? I looked at her, my voice very soft but carrying a probing tone. Bai Qingshuang's tears finally fell. She grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight. Of course I wouldn't agree. But Lu Jingchuan, you don't understand my dad. He's a man of his word. He's already contacted lawyers and sent people to investigate your whereabouts over the past 5 years, wanting to see if you had any illegal activities while abroad. He even said, if legal measures don't work, he has other ways. Those words, has other ways, felt like a bucket of ice water poured over my head. What kind of background does the Bai family have to have stood firm in the capital all these years? Do they rely solely on business tactics? I took a deep breath, pulling my hand out of hers. So you came today to tell me to brace myself. Either hand over the kids, or wait to be destroyed, right? No. Bai Qingshuang panicked, her voice cracking. I came to tell you, I won't let him get his way. I've already contacted my legal team, and there are shareholders in the Bai group who support me. If my dad insists on tearing us apart, I'll fight him to the bitter end. Saying that, she pulled a stack of documents from her bag and handed it to me. This is a custody agreement I had my lawyer draft. I've already signed it. It clearly states that the two kids will be raised by us jointly. You have completely equal custody rights, and no one has the right to take that away. I looked down at the documents, my mind a tangled mess. The agreement was drafted very professionally. Every clause written airtight. You could tell a lot of effort went into it. But I knew, facing a colossal power like the Bai family, this piece of paper had absolutely no power to resist. Bai Qingshuang, have you ever thought, if you stand on the same front as me, how your dad will treat you? I asked. She froze, then forced a smile. At worst, he strips me of my CEO position at the Bai group, freezes my assets, or even kicks me out of the Bai family. I don't care about any of that. I only care about you and the kids. I opened my mouth, wanting to say something, but in the end, no words came out. That night, Bai Qingshuang didn't go back. She stayed and had dinner with the kids, bathed them, told them stories, and coaxed them to sleep. I sat in the living room, watching her busy figure in the room, indescribable emotions surging in my heart. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by a ringing phone. It was Bai Qingshuang's phone. She answered it, and her face instantly turned pale. What's wrong? I asked. She hung up, her lips trembling. My dad sent people to your rented apartment, saying you're illegally occupying family property and they're forcibly taking it back. Property management just called me, saying all your belongings have been cleared out, piled up downstairs. I shot up, my mind buzzing. That apartment wasn't big, but it had been the sanctuary for me and the kids these past few months. Inside were my son's toys, comic books, clothes, and a bunch of stuff Chenchin brought over. On what grounds? I gritted my teeth. I rented that apartment myself. I have the contract in my hands. Bai Qingshuang grabbed my hand. It's useless. The developer of that building is a subsidiary of the Bai Group. My dad just needs one phone call to make property management tear up the contract. Lu Jingchuan, don't panic. I just had someone book a hotel downtown. You three can move there temporarily. Let me handle the housing situation. My whole body was trembling, not out of fear, but out of anger. 5 years ago, I was kicked out by the Bai family like trash. 5 years later, they want to pull the same trick again. I, Lu Jingchuan, may be poor and have no background, but I still have my dignity. Early the next morning, I had Bai Qingshuang help me watch the kids, and went to the apartment building myself. Sure enough, my belongings were scattered all over the ground, clothes strewn across the concrete, comic books trampled and crumpled, and Chenchin's comic books trampled and crumpled, and Chenchin's faded, washed-out teddy bear was nowhere to be found. I squatted down, picking things up one by one, covered in dust. Nearby, a few old ladies doing their morning exercises were pointing, whispering about something. I didn't care, stuffing my things into a borrowed woven bag, moving them to the car trip by trip. Just then, a black Maybach slowly pulled up in front of me. The car door opened, and an old man in his 60s stepped out, with graying hair, wearing a meticulously tailored light-colored suit, his gaze as sharp as a knife. Bai Zhenbang, Bai Qingshuang's father, the head of the Bai Group. I had seen his photos online, but the real person gave off an even more oppressive aura than in the pictures. He just stood there, and the surrounding air seemed to drop a few degrees. Lu Jingchuan, he stared at me from head to toe, his tone like he was calling a servant. I stood up straight, still holding a half-filled bag of clothes, and looked at him calmly. Is there something you need, Mr. Bai? A silver-rimmed glasses-wearing assistant standing next to him immediately took a step forward, handing me a piece of paper. This is a notice from the Bai Group's legal department. First, taking advantage of Mrs. Bai Qingshuang. After childbirth, you took the Bai family's flesh and blood without permission, showing signs of child abduction. We reserve the right to pursue legal action. Second, the property you are residing in has been reclaimed. You are required to move out within 48 hours. Third, considering you do not have a stable, high-income job and lack the financial capacity to raise young children, the Bai family will file a lawsuit, requesting a change in direct custody of the 2 children. I took the paper, looked at both sides, then slowly tore it into shreds and threw it on the ground. Bai Zhenbang's face darkened, and the 2 burly men who looked like bodyguards beside him took a step forward. Old Master Bai. I looked straight into his eyes, enunciating every word clearly. 5 years ago, it was your daughter who came to me, and the children are my own flesh and blood. I have never kidnapped anyone. As for my ability to raise them, I've raised my child very well abroad these past 5 years, without ever relying on a single cent from the Bai family. If you want to take this to court, I'll see you in court. Bai Zhenbang let out a cold sneer. See me in court. What are you going to use to fight me in court? Is your monthly salary even enough to cover lawyer fees? After saying that, he turned to get in the car. He took 2 steps, then stopped, and without even looking back, said, I'll give you 2 days to bring the 2 kids back to the Bai family. Otherwise, you won't just lose your job, you'll lose your freedom. Young man, don't be ungrateful. The Maybach sped off, leaving behind a cloud of dust. I stood there, clenching my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms. That night, I took the kids and moved into the hotel Bai Qingshuang had booked. The 2 little ones didn't know what had happened and found staying in a hotel very novel, jumping around on the bed. I sat by the window looking at the night view outside, smoking cigarette after cigarette. Bai Qingshuang pushed the door open and walked in, freezing for a moment when she saw the cigarette in my hand. But she didn't say anything, just walked over and pushed the window open. A little wider, Lu Jingchuan. I've contacted the best family lawyer in the capital. Let's meet with them tomorrow morning, she said softly. I know my dad's tactics very well. We have to be prepared in advance. I stubbed out my cigarette and turned to look at her. Bai Qingshuang, tell me the truth. Your dad doesn't just want to take the kids back, does he? Her eyes flickered, and she stayed silent. He also wants to completely crush your hopes. Right, I continued. Force me to hand over the kids, then force you to marry someone of equal social standing, and completely forget about me. Bai Qingshuang bit her lip tightly, tears welling up in her eyes, and finally nodded. He's already arranged a blind date for me. The eldest son of the Zhou family in the capital, Zhou Yanming. The Zhou family and our Bai family are old acquaintances and have always intended to unite through marriage. My dad said if I don't agree, hell Hell what? Hell dig up your entire background and past, and publicly announce online that you're a scheming fraud clinging to a wealthy family, making it so you can never hold your head high in this country again. Bai Qingshuang finally burst into tears. Lu Jingchuan, I'm sorry. It's all my fault for dragging you down. If I hadn't been so indecisive 5 years ago and listened to Jin Zixuan's instigation, our family wouldn't have ended up like this today. I watched her cry, my heart feeling like it was being squeezed by a cruel hand. I once said my love for her had been completely worn away, but seeing her like this, my heart still ached. Maybe there are some things you can't just let go of just by saying it. Stop crying, I handed her a tissue. Crying won't solve the problem. Your dad isn't pressuring you, he's pressuring me. He thinks I'll back down when things get tough and voluntarily give up the kids. So, will you give up? She looked at me with red eyes. I gave a bitter smile. Give up if I could give up. I wouldn't have taken my son far away to a foreign land 5 years ago. That night, Bai Qingshuang and I talked for a long time. She said she had secretly contacted a few veterans of the Bai group. These people built the empire with her mother back in the day, were very loyal to her mother, and have always protected and shielded her, the eldest daughter. If Bai Zhenbong insists on having his way, these people will oppose him in the board of directors meeting. But I need time, Bai Qingshuang said, at least a month. During this month, I can't visit you and the kids too often. Otherwise, my dad will get even more suspicious. I nodded. All right. You do what you need to do. Leave the kids to me. You don't need to worry. She stood up to leave, walked to the door, then turned back, hesitating for a long time. Before asking softly, can you give me a hug? I looked at her, not moving. Her eyes dimmed, and she forced a smile. Never mind. Pretend I didn't say anything. I took a step forward and gently pulled her into a hug. Her body stiffened for a moment. Then, like grabbing a lifeline, she hugged my waist tightly, buried her face in my shoulder, and cried until she was trembling. I closed my eyes, unsure of what I was feeling. After Bai Qingshuang left, life became even more tense. I was juggling work and taking care of the 2 kids, while dealing with the constant harassment from Bai Zhenbong. First, the company suddenly received an anonymous tip, claiming I had financial issues during my time working abroad. The company suspended me to cooperate with the investigation. I knew this was the Bai family applying pressure, but I had no way to prove my innocence, because that so-called evidence was completely fabricated. Next, the kindergarten principal awkwardly informed me that some parents had complained that my 2 kids looking exactly alike was very weird and affecting the other children, advising me to transfer one of them to another school. I was so angry, I was shaking, but I knew full well it was Bai Zhenbong pulling strings behind the scenes. The most outrageous part was on the 3rd day. I took the 2 little ones to the supermarket to buy groceries, and when checking out, we were surrounded by a few strangers. They claimed to be Bai family bodyguards, saying they were under orders from old Master Bai to bring the young master home. The 2 kids were terrified and hid behind my back. I shielded my kids, confronting those men. Finally, the supermarket staff called the police, which drove them away. On the way back, my son asked me in a small voice, Dad, did those bad guys want to snatch me and Chenchen away? Chenchen also tugged at my hand, his eyes filled with fear. Dad, I don't want to go back to that big house. I want to stay with you. I squatted down, pulling both kids into my arms, my voice very clear and firm. Dad won't let anyone take you away. Absolutely no one. When we got home, I called Bai Qingshuang and told her what happened over the past 2 days. The other end of the line was silent for a long time. Then, her voice carried an unprecedented ruthlessness. Enough. I don't want to wait anymore. What are you going to do? I had a bad feeling about this. Tomorrow the Bai Group is holding a board meeting. I will officially propose during the meeting to dismiss my dad from his position as CEO. I've secured the support of over 45% of the shareholders, plus the 25% of shares in my hands. It's enough to initiate a vote of no confidence. Bai Qingshuang's voice was very calm, a calmness that made one's heart ache. Lu Jingchuan, if I fail, I might lose absolutely everything. But if I don't do this, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I gripped my phone tightly, my fingers trembling slightly. Are you sure you want to do this? He's your father. He's the man who hurt you and the kids first, and my father second, Bai Qingshuang said. Besides, I owe you this. The next day, I didn't go to work. I stayed at the hotel to keep the 2 kids company. I was glued to my phone all day, waiting for news from Bai Qingshuang. At 10 a.m., she sent a text saying the meeting had started, and then went completely silent. As every minute and second ticked by, the kids must have sensed something too. They were incredibly well behaved all day. No fussing, no crying, just quietly playing with their Legos. At 2 p.m., the phone finally rang. It was Bai Qingshuang. Her voice was hoarse, like she had been crying, or was just utterly exhausted. Lu Jingchuan, we won. I let out a sigh of relief, feeling like all the strength had been drained from my body. My dad agreed to give up custody of the kids. and he won't target you anymore. In exchange, I promised not to remove him from his director position for 3 years, and to keep a certain percentage of dividends for him every year. Bai Qingshuang paused for a moment. He also asked me to pass on a message to you. What is it? He said that guy named Lu sure has a lot of nerve. I froze for a second, then couldn't help but laugh. This was probably Bai Zhenbong's way of admitting defeat. He wouldn't soften his tone, but his actions showed he had already yielded to Bai Qingshuang. Thank you, I said. The other end of the line was silent for a few seconds. Then she replied softly, no need to thank me. From now on, let's just take life one step at a time. Okay, I didn't answer, but I didn't refuse either. That night, I moved out of the hotel. With Bai Qingshuang's help, I rented a new place, a bit more spacious than the last one, with 2 bedrooms and a study. The 2 kids each got their own room, so they didn't have to squeeze into one bed anymore. On our first day moving in, Chen hugged his recovered teddy bear, rolling around on the little bed I had just made, smiling from ear to ear. My older son tugged at my hand, pointed at the empty wall, and said, Dad, let's hang a family photo up there. A family photo? I paused slightly. An image flashed in my mind, the 2 kids, and Bai Qingshuang. All right, I said, we'll go take one in a few days. The doorbell rang right at that moment. I opened the door, and there was Bai Qingshuang, carrying large bags of groceries, her forehead dotted with sweat. I'm here to cook a housewarming meal for you guys. She smiled, her gaze sweeping past me, looking into the house where the 2 kids were waving at her. I stepped aside to let her in. The sound of chopping vegetables soon echoed from the kitchen. The 2 kids ran back and forth around the kitchen, eagerly offering to help. I stood in the living room watching, and the deep, long frozen part of my heart seemed to crack open just a little, letting in a sliver of warmth. Maybe life really was going to get better. Later, I saw the news about Jing Zixuan on TV. The court held a public trial for Jing Zixuan's intentional homicide case. The evidence was irrefutable, with both witnesses and physical proof present. He confessed to all his crimes, and was ultimately sentenced to 25 years in prison. In the news footage of the trial, he was wearing a prison uniform, his hair a mess, his face fierce, his eyes venomous. Gone was the refined elegance of the past. Gone was the fake gentleness. He looked like a complete lunatic, a total loser. I thought it was all over, but I didn't expect Bai Qingshuang to not let him off the hook. Under her secret arrangements, Jing Zixuan was constantly targeted in prison. He intentionally caused trouble, fought with inmates, defied the guards, and repeatedly violated prison rules, showing no remorse. His sentence was extended time and time again, from 25 years to 50 years. He would never escape that prison for the rest of his life, doomed to pay for his cruelty and madness forever, receiving the punishment he deserved. I looked at the TV screen, feeling completely unfazed. No anger, no resentment, just peace. It felt like the boulder that had been weighing me down for 5 years had finally been lifted. With no more worries, I could focus on raising my 2 kids in peace and live a quiet life. With the kids always by my side, the days were happy and warm, full of life, but also filled with daily chaos, and there were always moments that made me laugh and cry, like right now. The familiar sound of bickering echoed from the living room. Dad, I found this toy first. Playing with it, you can't just snatch it. The older brother hugged the Ultraman figure and hid behind my back, his little face full of defiance, hands on his hips as he argued his case. I saw it first. I grabbed it first. You have to share the good stuff. Dad, you can't play favorites. You have to be fair. The younger brother tugged at my shirt, looking up with his little face, puffing his cheeks in anger, his little eyebrows furrowed in the most adorable way. Arguing back and forth, the 2 of them started scuffling again. Pushing and pulling, toys scattered all over the floor, from Legos to comic books. Toy cars strewn everywhere. The living room was a total mess, like a hurricane had just swept through. This happened almost every single day. Last time they fought over a comic book, they tore a page right out. A few days ago, fighting over grapes, they broke a plate. Yesterday, fighting over a paintbrush, they smeared paint all over the walls, in every color imaginable. I simply pretended to be deaf, leaning back on the sofa to read the paper without interfering. Letting the kids sort it out themselves. Kids' fights come and go quickly. There's no need to micromanage them. The more you intervene, the messier it gets. Sure enough, it didn't take long before I heard the younger brother's aggrieved but compromising voice. Fine, you can play with it for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you have to trade with me. No going back on your word. The older brother immediately agreed, his little face lighting up with joy, looking incredibly smug. Deal, it's a promise. I'll give it to you in 5 minutes. I peeked over and saw the 2 of them huddled together again, heads touching as they played with the Ultraman figure. The argument from moments ago was completely forgotten. The 2 brothers were as close as could be, laughing and chatting away. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a gentle glow over their 2 little figures. Warm and peaceful. Quiet, peaceful days. This must be what they look like. I smiled in relief, my heart filled with contentment and happiness. No more wealthy family feuds. No more villains causing trouble. No more scheming and jealousy. No more endless resentment. Just me and my two kids. Simple and warm. Happy and peaceful. These chaotic days, yet so full of love, are exactly the life I crave and cherish most in this world. This is enough.